feeling quite in a challenged place. I'm feeling quite anxious and a bit disorientated and confused. So I thought it would be good to vlog and maybe help sort out things in my head a little bit. I had another difficult sleep. I was up, probably awake more sporadically in the night, and I actually fell asleep with my headphones on, listening to some ASMR, and usually I don't fall asleep like that. When I get sleepy, I kind of turn off the headphones and try and close my eyes and try and sleep. But I woke up. I don't know if it was I don't think it was to an advert. It was maybe the discomfort of the headphones maybe woke me, and I woke up, and it took me a moment to realise I had the headphones on, and I checked the time. It was 1 o'clock in the morning. So, and then I kind of felt like I didn't really sleep too well afterwards, and I think later on I checked the time. It was 6 a.m. and I felt like I hadn't really slept much at all. And instead of turning off my alarm, I just listened to some more ASMR, just tried to relax, and quite quickly it was 8 o'clock in the morning, and I decided to just try and get up. So I managed to take a shower, and I made a cup of coffee for myself, so feeling that I needed a boost today. And so I was sat in my chair and trying to figure out the day. I was thinking about, okay, I guess just before that, or the night before, I received an email for my private psychiatrist assessment, and they were saying that need to, if possible, to obtain some medical summary records for the appointment. So they wanted me to contact my GP. So I phoned a GP, which was quite stressful for me to do, and I managed to communicate that, and they said you need to go on the website and go through an online system. So and I said on the phone that I kind of need these documents before the 20th, before the Friday, because that's when the appointment is. And I just asked them if, should I put that into the online form thingy, and he said yes. And so I filled out the form, and I got this automated response back saying they should get back to you before Thursday at 6:30 p.m, Thursday the 19th. So that was just... So I'm hoping they read what I've written there, so they can perhaps organise that for sooner, so it's not left until potentially too late. So maybe that was a little bit stressful, but after that I had had my cup of coffee, and I was trying to figure out the day really. And again, first thing came up was food related thing. Okay, I need to potentially get some groceries, and where should I go, what should I make, and it was and quickly I was sort of stumbling over a certain whether to get some salad to make sandwiches this week, and to go through that thought process, I was trying to analyse whether I would have the energy to kind of, for several days, to kind of wash and prepare and make the sandwiches. So I've been, as cooking's been more and more difficult, I've been, a result of that is food has gone to waste, which is not what I like, not what I prefer to happen. I prefer to not waste food. So, and I was trying to kind of analyse that. Okay, if I buy, all of this salad, and then in the recent sort of past, more and more has been wasted. So I was just trying to analyse that, and it's really difficult, because it's almost, again, it was just overwhelming for the mind to make that assessment. And then I considered contacting a family member who's currently helping me with, some cooking and cleaning and things, and and I felt like I was ruminating about that. I couldn't decide whether to do that, and I again, the thought process, there was nothing to grab onto. I was just lots of difficulty in trying to weigh that up. It felt like almost impossible. And same with the food stuff as well. I was just, okay, should I reach out for help, or should I try to figure out groceries for myself? And I was probably already feeling a bit stressed because of the doctor surgery stuff and lack of sleep as well. That's probably having more of an impact than I realise. So I just found myself in this sort of trapped state that whatever pathway I go down is just rumination, or there's disorientation. I just felt a bit trapped, and I felt, okay, perhaps I should reach out for help. I still don't know if that was the right thing to do, even though I've done it. And so yeah, it's a bit of a difficult space this morning. One thing to note as well, the sort of calmness that I mentioned yesterday, and perhaps I had that on the day before as well. I think one of the sort of elements that helped that was I kind of knew what meals I had available to me. Like I made some pasta, so I knew, okay, that's a potential meal that's ready to eat in the fridge. Porridge in the morning, or I kind of had lunch sorted as well, because I had some falafel left over and a tin of beans in the fridge. I thought, okay. And so even though it was difficult, there was an element of sort of calmness in there as well. But now, when there's other pressures, like, okay, I need to figure out groceries, I haven't really got any food sort of cooked or planned for today, and it's almost like a huge disruption in my mind. And there's it brings up a lot of very quickly. It exacerbates those symptoms that are sort of bubbling. It kind of brings it up where it's overwhelming. So yeah, it feels like things can exacerbate very quickly. So if there was a scale of 0 to 10, and I was on a 6. Say 0 is no symptoms, 10 is overwhelming symptoms, and maybe I'd be at a 6 or 7 in the last couple of days when there's relative, less to think about, decide, and put pressure on my mind to do. But then suddenly now it's probably at an 8 or 9 in regards to mental clarity and the feeling of sort of, I don't know if you'd call it an anxiety maybe, but it feels like it's a combination of lots of different feelings, but overall it's overwhelming and it's disruptive, and it's causing me discomfort's probably too much of a soft word, but let's go with it. It's maybe affecting my, I guess, my functioning. And it's strange as well, because I sense that in the same way, if you're like trying to remember a word, it's on the tip of your tongue, it almost feels like part of my health or my clarity is sort of there, but it's not. I can't really access it fully, but it feels, part of it feels right there, and it makes me feel silly to kind of ask for help and to do these things, because it's almost very close. It's not to say, perhaps it's not to say that that diminishes or lessens the symptoms. So in some ways I don't know how severe they are, but whether they're severe or how severe they are, it still feels like there's an element there where I can sense part of me that's healthy, that's saying, come on, just, sort of willing me to push through stuff and to do, to kind of, like with food related, I had a rough a meal idea to do, but again it was like the idea was very distant. It was hard for me to get to it. It's hard to explain, I guess. And say, for example, if the idea of this meal was very close, it means that, okay, I'm very clear and comfortable, I can get the ingredients and I can cook it. But the distance implies that there's a lack of sort of connecting thoughts, and what's usually automatic is now becoming sort of the opposite of that. So the automatic process would be, okay, I'm going to make a meal, and automatically or very quickly you would assess, okay, yes, I can do that. It's a meal that I know. Yes, I can get the groceries, and I know the method. I've got the mental energy to desire, motivation, to physical energy to go and get that and come back, and there's a very high percentage that I will cook that meal. But for me, all of that is out the window. It's okay, each of those steps needs to be almost heavily assessed in some ways. So I've got that meal idea there in a distance, and then now I need to figure out, okay, what do I need to do to get that? Okay, I need to go to a supermarket. Do I have the mental energy today to go to a supermarket and pick up that? And then there's maybe assessments and thoughts about, okay, do I have the mental energy to cook that? And I have to try and assess that, because I guess part of me is perhaps not wanting to waste it, and it's not nice as well buying stuff and then almost, I guess, failing in that. It can be a bit of a blow to. I've done that again. That's been happening as well. I've bought sort of ingredients that sort of are perishable, and I've got to throw that away. Yeah, again, it's very hard to talk about and describe, because it's yeah, as I said many times, using the mind that's struggling to try and describe, it's a kind of a catch-22 there, but hopefully I'm making sense to myself. That's most important, and maybe I am in some ways. So, it's kind of a bit of both, I guess, when going into these sort of metaphors to describe mental processes. It's not always easy or clear. Um, so yeah, and also there's always like a reaction to things as well, like going through the thought process about getting groceries or contacting a family member. There's an energetic, mental and physical, perhaps both, impact on me dealing with that thought process and dealing with the decision of it. So me contacting a family member, there's almost a bit of stress and anxiety built up with that now. Okay, somebody's potentially coming, and there's, and I think part of that is unpredictability. Because when I'm in someone's company, things are more unpredictable. The nature of that, and obviously absorbing someone else's energy just seems like a challenge as well. And it's not personal. Of course, it varies on the scale depending on who it is, but on a general level, it's sort of anybody, usually any person. Then I've got, absorbing sort of the energy, the social dynamics, communication, because maybe that's a sensitivity, because I spend most of my time alone, and obviously there's that sensitivity is there, communication overload, sensory overload. So at every sort of place is either like reaction, and there's no kind of easy way out of it. Whatever path I choose, there's going to be a reaction. There's going to be dealing with difficult emotions and sensations and thoughts. And so even this path I've taken, okay, I've reached out for help, which I still don't feel good about. I feel, I struggle with that a lot. I feel obviously maybe there's always a sort of visceral reaction there of pulling someone else out by they're going to have to make an effort to come down to me and see me and do this, especially when it's someone I know. If it was maybe an independent service, perhaps that would still have its own challenges, but maybe it'd be less challenging in that regard, where I'm not putting someone out who has to come and help me. And again, it feels like a bit of a failure as well, asking for help, which I know is not a healthy perspective, and perhaps it's not an accurate one as well. But it's understandable, perhaps, that my mind is in disarray. That's the reaction it has at the moment, and yeah, maybe I feel. Trying to think if I feel frustrated or anger. Maybe I feel something in those spectrum of emotions of frustration, anger, or they have disappointments in there as well. Maybe I feel something in those areas where I've kind of like hit an obstacle of, okay, I can't get myself going, I can't figure out whether to get myself groceries, what to get, and this, and so it really feels like I've let myself down or failed in some way, which is, and it would be good to perhaps address that as time goes by. Maybe part of that is okay, or part of that's not, because all of this is relatively new in regards to needing, in regards to the symptoms being so much disabling, where I think in past vlogs I've gone through something similar but managed to get myself out and eventually go through the other side of it and decide on a meal, and I've gotten it. But now things have gotten worse, and it's a new sort of adjusting to the new parameters or my new sort of limitations. And I say limitations with like a dotted line, so nothing's permanent. There may be a day in the future where I go out, get groceries, make a meal, that's no problem, but right now it's hard to accept that it is. I'm still in denial of it, really. It's probably why I feel a bit stressed, and there's a reaction about someone coming to help me and asking for help, because I feel like I should be doing it myself. and maybe that's the place where it's hard to accept. And maybe the psychiatrist stuff's probably playing a bigger role than I realise as well. I feel like one of the difficult things is to acknowledge things, whether positive things, but also the severity or the weight of challenging things as well. So anything such as health assessments, which is what this will be, it's extremely stressful. Of course, it's slightly less stressful than something like universal credit, because this is a difference where it's like almost like a paid service where they're going to try and help me, so maybe there's less judgment in it there versus being assessed, and they're assessing you to see, almost like an examination, to see how much help they're going to get, or assessing me to kind of fit in how many points or check boxes. But it's still very stressful, and perhaps as part of me has not processed that yet, that potentially in a few days' time, several days' time, that I'm going to have to go through that, and so you can feed it to me a little bit now, and so it might be a good idea to potentially take some anxiety medication. I'm always reluctant to that, because I kind of only want to take it when it's needed, but I'm just thinking whether it's good to preempt that, because I can feel it now, a little bit of perhaps anxiety, and like I said, I'm not good at acknowledging things, and especially subtleties at the moment, whether it's physical sensations or mental stress. Sometimes it feels like I can be unaware of things building up, and then only when it gets to a heightened state, whether it's chest pain or complete brain fog, and or almost like a bit of a sort of mental, I don't know if I call it a breakdown, but just some sort of short circuit maybe, where I'm just completely not knowing what I'm doing, and I can sort of only sense it at that stage. So today's going to be very challenging. I think even I'm getting help, it's going to be, so I feel quite vulnerable already, and that's going to, like, being in company is probably going to have its challenges. It's going to don't know what the word to use, but my senses are going to be overwhelmed. It's maybe another way of putting it. And of course, the non-acceptance of I should be doing this myself. That's going to sort of affect me as I get help from somebody else throughout today, potentially. So that's a difficulty. I think maybe that's about it. Just strange, because I'm feeling like I can't really handle a challenging day. Like I'm already feeling quite challenged. Kind of wish the rest of the day was taken care of with food, and things were like there was. Right now, if I could click my fingers and there was some prepared meals in my fridge, the healthy meals, and I could just almost have a day hibernating today, just watch some films and not have to deal with anything. It feels like, but it's not the case right now. And there's the clear sort of the clear struggling with my words now. The obvious fact that there's no food prepared, or lack of groceries as well. So some action needs to be taken to do that, which I've done by reaching out for help. But it just feels like I don't have the mental energy to deal with today. So maybe one thing I can do between now and when a potential family member comes over, it's not fully confirmed, but I can try and figure out a way to try and relax, maybe, if possible. Maybe I can start with having something to eat as well. I haven't eaten today. I don't think I have. Just had a cup of coffee, so maybe a good idea to have something to eat and maybe watch something that takes my mind off things. That could be an idea just to begin with. I think, maybe that's a good place to start.